Hello, I'm Yaakov Rogalski, and we meet once every 2 weeks, and once the second week of every month in Cedarhurst, Long Island, and we have B'nai Noah class. And the thing that we're going to start first learning is a Maimer Chasidus. Chasidus is a relevant Kabbalah, and it's written mainly by the Lubavitcher Chabad Rebbeim, and we're doing the Maimer called Yidati Hayom, You Should Know God, and it was written by the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe. It starts off with a verse in Deuteronomy. It says, "You shall know today and take into your heart that Havaya, which is the name of God, which is the essence of God, is Elohim, which is another name of God, which is what God created with, the name that He created the world with. That Havaya is Elohim in the heavens above and the earth below, and there is nothing else." So God, when He creates the world, everything is God. There is nothing else but God. So the verses which precede this statement concern the Exodus. The verses that come before this verse, what does it concern? It talks about the going out of Mitzrayim, going out of Egypt, and of the Jewish people going into Israel, Eretz Israel. So the sequence varies. Now, in Torah, whenever you have one pasuk before the other, it's a very important thing. There's a need to explain what is the connection between going out of Egypt and going into Eretz Israel, and what's that got to do with it? You have to know that God is one. What's the connection of going out of Egypt, going into Israel, and knowing that God is one? To resolve this question, it is first necessary we have to explain what it means that Havaya is Elohim. Havaya in Chassidus and in Kabbalah is the name of God spelled out with the four letters of God's name, Yud, then a Hey, then a Vav, then a Hey. That's God's essence. And then Elohim is referring to God as plurality, because in the beginning, the first verse in the Torah, we say in the beginning God created, and they use the word Elohim, which connotes plurality. In this context, the Zohar says Havaya, which is the essence of God, and Elohim, which is plurality of God, they are all one. On the surface, it's difficult to understand this, that these two names can be one, because it's known that Havaya is a source of revelation and is associated with the attribute of mercy, as it's explained in the Medrash and the Zohar in several places. It reflects revelation in a manner characterized by kindness and mercy without any limitation. So Havaya is mercy, and it's a concept of limitless. It has no limitation. And for all limitation stems, and when you have limitation, when you have creation, that's the word Elohim. So that's the name of that's Elohim, as well be explained. While the name Havaya is associated with revelation that is entirely without any bound. So you have two concepts here. You have the concept of Elohim, which is limit, which is boundary oriented, and you have Elohim, and you have Havaya, which is without. And what is the Zohar saying? That something without limitation and something with limitation is the same exact thing. So it goes on further in the Maimer, the name Elohim is associated with the judgment and contraction, to limit and to conceal the revelation of light. In other words, when God first created the world, God created the world and keeps creating, He had His essence. There was nothing else but God. So He had to create a world that seemed to be devoid of Himself, but it really is Himself. In other words, in order to do that, He had to create His essence, had to come into the formation of limitation and concealment, and that's what judgment is. Judgment is the union of contraction of a judgment, because you're limiting a person. When a person has a judgment upon himself, he's limited. He can just do so much. And so that's what the whole union of Elohim is. So in order to do that, God couldn't keep His essence as it was, because then everything would be godliness, everything would appear to be godliness, which it really is. But He had to contract Himself so it would look like that this world is not God Himself. Thus, it is a source for the manifold. So it says, by Elohim is the union of judgment and contraction, to limit it and conceal. Thus, it is the source for the manifold division which exists among the creations of the world. As such, the plural form is used in the name Elohim, is it says Elohim Kadoshim. So that's why you have Elohim as plural, because it connotes plurality, connotes that everything, that there's a multitude of things in creation. This emphasizes that the manifold division which exists within our world stems from the manner in which the infinite divine light is limited and concealed through the influence of the name Elohim. So in other words, that God's infinite light is, when creation started, becomes limited. To elaborate slightly, the Mimer says, the name Elohim is the medium through which the infinite divine life force is meted out to creations. Since the life force is to be enclosed and internalized within the creation, it must undergo a process of self-contraction and limitation. In other words, it's getting said, you have God which is limitless, and you have to bring it into a limited form. So that's a limit. So that's why you have to use a different name of Hashem, a different name of God. Whenever God creates or does anything, each name is indicative of His action. So Havaya is indicative of just the essence of God, without any limitation. But when He wanted to create a world that was limited, He had to use the name Elohim.